Okay, we are doing the fourth of our completion tasks, which is activity 4, movie clips. We will be working in Flash. Again, action script 3. To start, click on movie clips. All right, what I like to do for this tutorial is I'm going to minimize this window so that I can see all of the instructions like that. And then I'm going to move Flash so that it is a little narrower. Hold my space bar to get the hand tool, and then move this over. That way I can work and still see the instructions side by side. Makes it a little easier to move step by step. So open a new Flash file. I've already got open. Ensure it's action script 3. Just so you know, if I click anywhere outside of the stage here and go to properties, you'll see it gives you properties for your document. It says right up here, document. Okay, and what you'll notice is here is action script 3, and that's what we care about. Okay, let's begin. Choose insert new symbol. We talked previously about symbols and that there are 3 options. There's a movie clip, a graphic, a button, and a graphic. Okay, and in this particular instance, we're going to be creating a movie clip. Type the name spinner, okay, and we're going to choose a movie clip. And you can follow along as we do this. So right now, to begin with, insert new symbol from the menu. 3, type the name spinner in the name field. 4, choose movie clip as the behavior and click OK. Okay, spinner, movie clip, OK. 5, and notice once we do that, up here in my sort of the top area of my stage, it says spinner because I'm now editing the spinner. Okay, this is the timeline for the spinner. It's a really common mistake to double click something and start editing without realizing that you're editing the symbol. I'm not editing my main timeline, the movie for my timeline. I'm editing this particular graphic. Okay, that's an important distinction that you have to understand and pay attention to. All right, 5, make your fill color a gradient. The gradient fills are at the very top, very bottom of the fill colors in the toolbox. So here's my fill color. I'm going to go to the very bottom and I'm going to choose a red fill. Select the oval tool and ensure that snap is on in your toolbar. Draw a circle with the gradient fill on the stage. My oval tool. All right, make sure that snap is on, which it is. Snap is over here. All right, mine's on, which makes a circle for me. Okay, now you'll notice that this is not quite centered. We're going to fix that in a second. Okay, align your oval to the center of the stage. So using your align panel, which is Command K, you're going to check the align center of stage checkbox and move it to the center. So I'm going to go to my align palette. You actually can find that right here. There's an align to stage checkbox. Make sure that's checked because you actually do want to align this to the center of your stage. I have it selected, double click it, align to center of stage. Okay, click on it. Good to go. Number 8, select the gradient transform tool from the toolbox. It's hidden under the transform tool. So I'm looking for the gradient control tool. This is the free transform tool. What you'll see here is the gradient transform tool. And what that means is when I click on it, I get this new sort of apparatus called Gizmo. And it gives me control over the gradient. The gradient starts here and ends here. It goes from red to black. What I can do is I can change that, the shape of this thing, so that it is a smaller, it's shaped differently. It can go farther out. And I can also have, there's 2 other controls here. One is where does the gradient start and finish. Okay. And finally, if, for example, I wanted it to be rotated, I could rotate this like this. Okay, so those are those controls. For now, we're going to keep them as they were. So I'm just going to undo and I'm going to leave it as it was. But what I want to do is, when I have this selected, go to my gradient transform tool, and like it says here, select the gradient transform tool, click on the circle on your stage with this tool selected. I click on my circle, okay, and in the center, you're going to see there's a little circle. And when I mouse over it, I get this 4-way arrow. I'm going to move that slightly, and what you can see is it's moving where the registration point of the gradient, not the circle, it's just moving the, you can see you can move it right off of that. And all that's happening is it's saying go from red to black, but start over here. I'm going to just move that off a little bit, and the reason I'm going to move that off will become apparent later, but for now just move that so that it looks like it's slightly away. You can make it bigger if you wanted to, however you want that, that's fine. Okay? Great. That's the end of, what did we do? We just did 9. Make your selection tool the active tool. Selection tool. Select the entire circle and convert it to a graphic symbol called circle. Now this is already a graphic. Remember that we created a blank graphic. We called it spinner, and then we drew a circle. But this circle is still only it's a shape. We just drew it on here. It's nothing. So it's not going to show up in my library, even though I'm drawing here in spinner. This is not, if I draw more things on this stage, they're going to show up in spinner too. This is not its own element, and it needs to be. It's not. It's got to be its own graphic. So I'm going to either select over all of it. I could double click to select everything, or I could hit Command A on my keyboard to select everything and turn this into a graphic, because I can't do any editing to this on this timeline until this is its own graphic. Okay. Once I've done that, I'm going to select the entire symbol and convert it to a symbol called Circle 1. So I can right click, convert to symbol. I'm going to call this Circle 1. And what you'll see, once I call it a graphic, what you'll see is when I click that, it's going to show up here in my library, because now it is a graphic. There it is. It also shows up with this blue line around it, indicating to me that Flash sees this as an instance of this original. Now these look identical, right? These look identical. And if I edit this symbol, if I double click it, I'm now editing Circle 1 inside spinner, right? Let's go back over here. I'll say I change the shape of this. Right, it's going to change the graphic, which is obvious, and it's going to change this graphic as well, because this is sitting inside this graphic, or this movie clip, right? Let's undo that. Now, oops. Okay. All right. Now it's a bit convoluted, it's a bit confusing, but you'll get it in a minute. What I'm going to do here is, so this is my circle, and here's my circle. I'm going to just add another layer here. I'm going to take another copy of this graphic, and I'm going to drag it onto this layer. Now notice that circle didn't change here in my library, because this is just an instance of this circle. It's just the graphic is the circle. But let's look at the spinner. The spinner timeline shows 2 of these, because this is the timeline where I've got 2 different copies. Okay, so this is, and I could add a bunch of these. And what you'll see is that I'm not changing the circle graphic, but I am changing the spinner movie clip, which has a bunch of these on its timeline. Okay. Now we don't need all those, so I'm going to delete them. I'm going to delete this layer because I don't need it. Great. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. If not, rewatch this part. The important thing here is that we've got a graphic element or symbol inside a movie clip symbol. They look identical because one's inside the other. Okay? They change if I make any changes to this item. All right, good. Moving on. That was the end of 12. On the spinner timeline, create a classic tween that causes the circle to rotate 360 degrees in a clockwise direction over 15 frames. That's a lot to take in. Let's read that carefully. On the spinner timeline, okay, this is the spinner timeline. Okay, this is our movie clip. Create a classic tween that causes the circle to rotate 360 degrees in a clockwise direction. Create a classic tween that causes the circle to rotate a full circle over 15 frames. So I want to go to my 15th frame, which is here, and I want to insert a keyframe, because I know that I'm going to have 15 pages on my little flip book of this animation. I also know that I want to have a classic tween, so I'm going to right click and say create classic tween, and it says okay, it's going to tween between these 2 keyframes. Remember that this has to be a graphic before I can make any changes here. If I didn't make this a graphic, this would be a problem. It would create 2 new items in my library called tween 1 and tween 2, and those are not this. Those are separate, which is going to be a problem. Now I've added this tween in, but this frame here and this frame are identical. What we need to do is add a rotation. So I click on anywhere in between here on this tween, go to my properties, and I say that I want a rotation value of 1. This is all under the tweening heading. Okay. Clockwise rotation. There's also counterclockwise if you want, and auto, which usually just defaults to clockwise, but clockwise and counterclockwise of 1 rotation between here and here. Great. Now let's take a look. Remember that this is the timeline for spinner. Let's look at our library. In our library, we have the graphic circle. This doesn't do anything. This is just a graphic. If I double click this, you'll see it has no animation because it is just a simple graphic. If I go to the spinner, you'll see that up here we get a little play button because it's a movie. And if I hit play, you'll see it plays through the timeline, which is this rotation of 1 full rotation. This doesn't have it because it's not a movie clip. It's just a symbol and it's static. If I go back out to my scene, you'll see there's nothing here yet. If I take my circle and I put it here, and I take my spinner and I put it here, and I test this movie, Command Enter to test my movie, that's the graphic. That's not doing anything because it's a static graphic. This is rotating because it is a movie clip that's got a full rotation in its timeline. Movie clip, graphic. I have animated this in this timeline so we get that animation happening. Okay, I'm going to go back out to my scene. I'm going to click on these. I don't need these for now. Okay, so I still have nothing here. There's nothing in my timeline here. And I'm going to go back to editing my spinner. This is where I was. This is where you guys should be. All right, we're adding this rotation. We did this, and we're going to scrub through the animation to ensure the rotation is working. We know that it is, but just to show you what scrub through means, that means scrub through. Click on the red time indicator and rotate. Great. Let's scroll down a little bit here. Next, return to the main timeline by clicking Scene 1 at the top left of your stage. That's here. Okay, I click here, it takes me back to my main timeline. Notice nothing here. Okay. On the main timeline, create a circle with a different colored gradient. Okay, we're here now. On the main timeline, create a circle with a different colored gradient. Okay, so I'm going to go to my circle. I'm going to make a new circle. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to change it to be green. Okay. Select the gradient transform tool from the tools again, and adjust the position. You probably have figured out why I adjust this, because if this was in the center, if I undo that, if I go and rotate this, if I cause rotation, you can't see this rotating, can you? Because it's centered. So that's why I'm assuming that you figured that out. That's why we do this part. So now I can see it. If I rotate it, you'll see that it is moving. Otherwise we wouldn't see any. Right. Anyways, I hope you figured that out on your own. All right, we need to select all of that because we're going to turn this into a symbol called graphic symbol called Circle 2. Okay, so I'm going to come over here, right click. Make sure you've got not just this, but the outside as well. Double click. Right click, convert to symbol, Circle 2, and this is going to be a graphic. Okay, not a movie clip, a graphic. Okay, great. Position Circle 2 at the top left edge of the stage. Okay, I'm going to put this up here. And you'll notice on my timeline I've got a black dot here now because I put something here, right? Position Circle 2 at the top left edge of the stage. That's done. Create a classic tween that rotates the graphic 360 degrees over 30 frames. Over 30 frames. Same thing we just did, except instead of 15, we're going to put it on 30. Insert keyframe. Create classic tween. Go to properties. Change this to 1 rotation. And over 30 frames, we get a rotation. If I test my movie, Command Enter. Here's my 30 frame rotation animation. Amazing. Back over here. Scrub through the animation to make sure the rotation works. It does. Create a new layer. Down here, create a new layer. Drag the spinner movie from the library to the stage on the new layer and place it at the right side of the stage. So here on this layer, I'm going to drag my spinner movie onto my desktop. Great. Now this is a movie clip. Notice I don't have any animation on this. Let's just do this. This is not in the instructions, but I'm going to say MC as in movie clip and GR as in graphic, just so we know which one we're looking at. There's my movie clip. There's my graphic. Okay. Using the type tool, write the words movie clip near the spinner movie. Go to the text tool. Oops, I'm going to turn those back on. I don't know why I turned it. Go to my text tool and write the word movie clip. Oops, try that again. I'm going to select that text and make it easier to work with. Okay, you can just click and, oops. You can click and drag, or you can Command A. When you're in this mode, Command A. Okay, go to my properties. I'm going to make it, instead of this disgusting green, I'm going to make it that. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. And then I'm going to click off of it. Okay, there's our movie clip. Remember, that's on the movie clip. Oh, I made a mistake. This should actually have been put on its own layer. I'm going to cut this. Undo what you just did. Get back to this point. You're going to make a new layer. Should I not have the instructions? Yeah, that's actually it'll work if it's here. It's still okay as long as you're on the movie clip layer. But let's do this. Let's make a new layer called text. Okay, and that'll just make things a little easier. Try that again. Movie clip. Okay. Where are we at here? Using the type tool, we did that. Test your movie by selecting Control Test Movie. And let's see what happens. So you'll notice that this is going faster and this is going slower. Why is this going faster? Well, because this is happening over 15 frames and this is happening over 30 frames. So every 30 frames, this has a chance to complete itself twice. Okay, so we have varying speeds happening. This starts here and rotates over 30 frames, and in that time, this movie clip has given 15 and then 15 more frames to complete itself. All right, hopefully that was straightforward enough to figure out. Try that. If you have any problems, let me know, but it should be straightforward. Good. Done.